Confirmation. The finance minister admits more taxes are coming to fund phase 2 of the tax break plan. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Archibald Gordon.
And I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, no surprise, an economist responds to the government's tax announcement.
History-making moment. MPs approve law for a single anti-corruption agency.
Murder mystery. Cops confirm the late Peter Abrams was murdered.
Use the court, the energy minister's message as gas retailers and Rubis feud.
In the business day, Power Connect JPS to sign a new deal to up its generating capacity.
There's also sports commentary as well as primetime weather in the primetime package. But before the break, the feedback question.
Describe the condition of any public cemetery in your parish.
Share comments online, facebook.com/television Jamaica and tweet at Television Jam.
Please stay with us. Primetime News returns after this break.
Welcome back to Primetime News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com.
A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the word Spot and Media.
It has been confirmed Jamaicans will now have to pay more taxes in order to get a further tax break.
In this case, the taxes will help fund the phase 2 of government's $1.5 million income tax plan.
The Finance Minister Audley Shaw made the revelation as he addressed the House of Representatives earlier today. The Finance Minister was asking MPs to approve the 2016 Provisional Collection of Tax Order. The order essentially paves the way for Phase 2 of the government's $1.5 million tax break plan. Audley Shaw said Phase 2 of the plan would be implemented in April 2017. It will see an increase of the income tax threshold, that's the portion of people's salary which is not subjected to income tax, to $1.5 million and $96. Responding, the opposition spokesman on finance, Dr. Peter Phillips, although throwing his support behind the order, again warned that new tax measures would be coming.
It is but a prelude, however, to the actual tax packages which will have to be announced by the minister when he speaks in the budget debate in order to pay for this particular modification to the Provisional Collection of Tax Act. So any comments that we would have further, we will wait until that time.
Then came the admission from the Finance Minister, who also said he would consider discussing the tax proposal with Parliament's Tax Committee before an announcement is made.
The more transparent we become, the better off all of us are. And I think our people, the people of the country, are expecting that level of transparency. We have not made this, Mr. Speaker, we have not made it a secret that we are moving from the direct taxation of personal income taxes towards indirect taxation. So it is an open book that we will have a replacement package, tax package, to replace the second phase of the personal income tax program. And in that context, and now I can say that I will be prepared to brief the committee, and I'll discuss with the cabinet the circumstances of exactly how we could mutually comport ourselves in looking at the proposal.
Meanwhile, responding to the announcement, Tuesday, University of the West Indies lecturer, economist Dr. Andre Horton said he was not surprised.
We knew from last year that the main reason why the 1.5 couldn't be implemented in the beginning was that the gap would be too large. What they would have to give up to what they would need to balance the budget.
But Dr. Horton said the government needs to think more long-term.
Government needs to use whatever policy that they're using. They need to use fiscal policy to achieve long-run objectives, and not just where can we scrape from or where can we get this additional money to fill a gap in the budget.
The tax break plan was announced in the JLP's general election campaign in 2016.
Meanwhile, on the final sitting of the parliamentary year, lawmakers passed critical legislation which will see the establishment of one anti-corruption agency. TVJ's Janella Precious has the details.
It has been a long time coming. Now, the first step has been completed for the establishment of a single anti-corruption agency. It has been a long time coming. Now, the first step has been completed for the establishment of a single anti-corruption agency. Under the Integrity Commission Act 2016, the Commission for Prevention of Corruption, the Integrity Commission, and the Office of the Contractor General will operate under one umbrella called the Integrity Commission. Prime Minister Andrew Holness noted that combined, the agency will be stronger and more effective.
Real evidence of corruption.
A concern.
And it is going to be an obligation of the Parliament to ensure that we are not, so to speak, buying a dog and then refusing to feed the dog so that it can't carry out the mission.
Member of Parliament for South St. Andrew, Dr. Omar Davies, also had questions about the staffing of the agency.
There is no hierarchy, and the question is who will make a decision as to what goes to the commission? Is it that you have the three heads of the division, directors, being equally at the same level? It seems to me that you could have this fine piece of legislation which will founder because of confusion, and there is no clear idea as to who is in charge. There is no clear idea as to who is in charge.
Admitting that the legislation is not perfect, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck said it will be subject to review.
In discussion with my staff, we felt that this is a matter which I have spoken to Senator Goldin that we could have a further discussion on.
Now that the bill has been passed, a joint select committee will decide on implementation. The legislation comes at a time when Jamaica was ranked 83 out of 176 countries in the Just Released Corruption Prevention Index by Transparency International. Janella Precious, TVJ News.
The death of highly acclaimed journalist and author Peter Abrahams is being treated as a murder. The communications arm of the Jamaica Constabulary Force confirmed that piece of information today following a post-mortem. TVJ's Andrea Chisholm picks up that story.
97-year-old Peter Abrahams was found dead at his home in Red Hills, St. Andrew on January 18, a place he called Koyaba, meaning heaven. But events like frequent break-ins sought to diminish the meaning of the location. At the time of his death, TVJ News was told that it was the norm for Mr. Abrahams to open his back door and let out his dog. Closer inspection showed there was no sign of forced entry.
Don't know yet if it's accident or foul play, because he was coming out with dishes that he ate in and they break up on the floor right beside him.
13 days after that comment, and pathologists have now concluded that the injuries leading to Mr. Abraham's death were deliberately inflicted. This follows a post-mortem examination on his body. The police are appealing to anyone with information to call them at 924-1435, 119-311 or use the Stay Alert app. Mr. Abrahams, who was born in South Africa, settled in Jamaica in 1955 after spending more than a decade in Europe. He was an author and a journalist, gaining prominence through News Commentary, a once popular hit program on RGR 94 FM. Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Residents and visitors at the Point Village in Negril, Westmoreland are angry with the developer of the Royalton Hotel currently being constructed close to their community. The residents say their lives have been miserable because of several problems caused by the construction. TVJ's Vashon Brown has their story.
This is the Royalton Negril location which is currently being built. It's causing a dust nuisance and muddy roads for residents at the nearby Point Village. The residents say on top of that, they have to deal with a constant noise nuisance. They say they want peace and quiet in their homes.
The reason the residents of the Point are disappointed with our neighbors who are constructing the Royalton is because they are so interested in construction. They are not showing proper respect to the residents of the Point, to their workers, or to their environment. We have had our access road cut off by their machines. There's no respect for our coming and going on our road.
The water truck they've hired to keep the dust down, all they're doing is making mud everywhere.
They argue that the problem has somehow gotten worse within the last 6 months. They point out that the issues can be fixed, but they want dialogue.
We can't even walk on a sidewalk. There's no sidewalk anymore.
Access to the sidewalk.
They're parking on both sides. They just don't care.
And no
this is their home. We come and rent every year. But we live here for 2 months a year, and I can't even walk that road anymore.
The other day I tried to get out to go food shopping. I couldn't get out. The taxis would not come into the Point because of the state of the road. I called my taxi. He said, sorry, I can't get in. So he said, meet me out on the road. I couldn't get out on the road because there was literally a puddle that was about 4 inches deep, filled with mud. There was nowhere to walk on the sidewalk.
Another resident, Simon Nelson, says the tourism minister should intervene.
It's a tourist facility, the Royalton, but this is a residential community. This is not people most of the people here own their units here.
When we contacted the Royalton Hotel, we were told that the hotel has no comment on the matter. Vashon Brown, TVJ News.
Our top story this evening, confirmation. The finance minister admits more taxes are coming to fund phase 2 of the tax break plan. Still ahead, privatize them. A group makes a pitch to manage public cemeteries. And in business news, Power Connect, JPS to sign a new deal to up its generation capacity. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Continuing the news. Amidst a looming threat of a possible gas strike, the government has vowed to do what it can to resolve the current impasse between the Jamaica Gasoline Retailers Association, JGRA, and Rubis. Energy Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley says failing that, he will again encourage the parties to take their dispute before the courts.
At the end of the day, we cannot afford for an issue that can be settled whether through mediation or through the courts, disrupt the entire country, disrupt the lives of our citizens. The government cannot sit idly by and allow that to happen. What we have done, as well as some of the issues raised by the JGRA, that we have gone ahead and implemented and are instructed the Chief Parliamentary Council to start the process of drafting legislation for us to take to Parliament to strengthen the petroleum trade here in Jamaica.
The issue surrounds Rubis's takeover of the leased and operated gas station in St. Anne's Bay. On Friday, the Energy Ministry facilitated 2 separate meetings with the JGRA and Rubis. However, JGRA President Philip Chong said he was disappointed with the outcome of the meetings and that strong action was still a possibility. Dr. Wheatley says he should be meeting with the JGRA by no later than tomorrow to discuss the outcome of his meeting with Rubis.
The Mayor of St. Anne's Bay is this evening sharing his plan to address the dwindling cemetery spaces in the parish. But one funeral home director is challenging that plan, saying the government should give them the job of managing cemeteries instead. TVJ's Shamela Mitchell completes her 2-part series.
With the Ocheria Cemetery, one of the largest in St. Anne, closed and several others running out of space, some people in the parish have opted to bury their dead on family plots, sometimes on the same property on which they live. Mayor of St. Anne's Bay, Michael Belnavy, says he signs at least 5 home burial forms every day.
So we're opting and encouraging individuals to bury their dead in a family plot if it is possible, because everybody has that option.
However, he says plans are in place to expand the Walkerswood Cemetery for more burials.
That will reflect a dovecot appearance, where we'll have a chapel, and it will be landscaped, so you can have that peaceful, tranquil, new approach to cemeteries, as opposed to where you have the gravestones that are protruding out of the ground. It'll be flat, so it will reflect a nice landscaped area.
But Managing Director at St. Michael's Funeral Home, Eric Comrie, is taking issue with the plan. According to Mr. Comrie, the terrain is not suitable for grave digging, and he thinks it will turn out to be quite costly for families.
For example, in Walkerswood where it is rocky, so you will remove the topsoil, and when you go down there you're on flat rock, so you have to bring in a jackhammer, and that costs more.
How much more would it cost?
Like it costs like by the hour. So they will charge you like for an 8-hour day or a 6-hour day, 5 hours, they left 3 hours in transportation from where the jackhammer is taken from. So all of that is added in the grave price.
Instead, Mr. Comrie thinks private businesses and not the government should manage cemeteries now in public hands.
The parish councils, the government of Jamaica, they should introduce us involve us, must I say, in the discussions going forward, so that we can give them our ideas, because we are the people who provide these services.
Mr. Comrie said in the past he had acquired lands to build a cemetery, but he says the plan was challenged by some of the same residents who are now having difficulties finding a spot to bury their loved ones.
Communities can come up against that and protest it, and it will shut down right there. So people are really coward to go out and go on the limb and do investments. You understand? And we don't have any identified areas.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yes, because I always looking for improvement for my business, and I want it to be a one-stop shop in terms of a crematorium and a cemetery.
He said privatizing the management of cemeteries would make life much easier for funeral home directors. TVJ News put that idea to the mayor.
Well, they're entrepreneurial and they're business people. Just like how you have Dovecot, and that's a private burial scheme. You could have private schemes in the area. I don't think there are any. So to me, it's an opportunity now for an enterprising person to get into the business of burial schemes. These undertakers, they're the right persons to get into it.
Shamala Mitchell, TVJ News.
The parliamentary opposition is this evening urging the government to get the facts, be cautious and sober before jumping to any conclusions on changes in the United States foreign policy. Jamaicans, both home and abroad, have expressed concern about statements made by U.S. President Donald Trump, executive orders that have been signed, and the implications for Jamaica. Trade, immigration and jobs are three areas of concern for the opposition. Here's TVJ's Andrea Chisholm with that story.
It's simple. The United States is Jamaica's largest trading partner, and as the saying goes, when the US sneezes, Jamaica catches a cold. Now, from day one, the US president's focus has been clear. It's America first. As he promised on the campaign trail, last week Donald Trump signed an executive order for the US to withdraw from the negotiating process of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. There are also plans to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement. So, how does Jamaica fit into all this trade talk? Well, Jamaica is one of the signatories to the Caribbean Basin Initiative with the United States, allowing some goods to be duty-free when they arrive in that country. And based on Trump's pronouncements, the opposition is concerned.
The Jamaican government will have to look for other areas for trade. It may be a situation where Jamaican goods will be more expensive because it will be attracting duty at the port of entry in the United States.
On the matter of immigration, there have also been concerns that the travel ban may extend to the Caribbean. Jamaicans in the United States have already started to panic. Dr. Morris Guy is urging them to know their legal status and think about the implications. Jobs for Jamaicans in the United States, as well as remittances, are another concern.
The J1 program, where our students go to the United States for work experience, the H2B visa program, where our seasonal workers enter the United States, because one of the campaign promise was that a lot of jobs that belong to Americans are being taken away by foreigners. So we have to be concerned about that.
But since there are so many unknowns when dealing with the United States,
there's no predictability in terms of what this current presidency is about.
The opposition has a bit of advice for the government.
We have to, as I say, observe, get the facts, be cautious in our statement, and be sober in our thinking as to how we approach this whole thing.
The opposition is also urging the government to continue discussions with missions overseas and the United States ambassador. And since there's strength in numbers, the Caribbean community should have dialogue on how they'll approach business with the United States. After all, it's not business as usual. Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
In the meantime, Jamaica's Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it's trying to get details on President Trump's executive order on immigration. In a release, the ministry said it was in contact with the U.S. Embassy in Kingston as well as the State Department. Portfolio Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith adds that as soon as the ministry is clear on the advice, it will explain whether there is any impact on the Jamaican community. The statement adds that the ministry and the government will maintain open channels to provide updates. There was also an appeal for Jamaicans to remain calm during this period.
In a TVJ News follow-up, the St. James Municipal Corporation says it's finally close to resolving a 2-decades-old dispute over government lands which are being used as businesses by squatters. Following a much-anticipated meeting between the two parties, Montego Bay Mayor Homer Davis detailed plans to sell the lands to the current occupiers. The details from Krista Campbell.
$500 million in 6 months. That's the target the St. James Municipal Corporation has set to earn money from the long-disputed lands at Bogue now that plans are finally on the way to sell. The 25 persons who, for over 20 years, have been illegally operating businesses on the property met with the Municipal Corporation to finally resolve the dispute over the lands. Speaking to the media on Monday, Montego Bay Mayor Homer Davis said both parties agreed that the sale would be mutually beneficial.
A number of them has put in big investment out there. And I'm sure that this is not investment that they are prepared to walk away from. So I think they equally have an interest to have the matter settled, and we are equally, because there are some capital projects that is needed in this city that we will be looking at.
That includes recovering back rent from those who had been illegally occupying the lands.
There is an agreement to pay 6 years back rental for the use and occupation of the said land. The corporation will do a calculation, and it is expected that the occupants will meet their obligation to us. There will be a second sit-down early March to continue the dialogue and for the corporation to give a status report on the process for the disposal of the land.
Meanwhile, as the corporation moves to collect from other illegally occupied government-owned lands, the mayor says steps are being taken to prevent any more squatting, starting with the lands at Bogue.
Effective immediately, the present occupiers should desist from subletting, expansion or modification to buildings without our permission.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
And before the break, Archie has been monitoring comments on social media. Over to you, Archie.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. Here is our question today. We're asking, describe the condition of any public cemetery in your parish. Let's take a couple of quick comments. Paige James saying, I think more people should get in the habit of cremation. Roughly 500 years from now, those cemeteries will be no more, and infrastructure will be on them. The plot of land each and every one of us builds our houses on was once a burying ground. Debbie Priestley says, there's one grave, part of the concrete covering gone, the front of Mapen Cemetery in the open area of the cemetery on Spanish Town Road in Kingston, looking very disgraceful. And our third comment from Shalene James, who says, to be honest, the one in Sav, not bad, sometimes overgrown, but most often well kept. Keep your comments coming on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/Television Jamaica, and your tweets to @Television Jam. Business news and news from overseas after the break.
A very good evening to you and welcome to the Business Day. I'm Dwayne Burbick. The Jamaica Public Service Company JPSCO will be signing a deal with Spanish company TSK Grupo to construct its new power plant in Old Harbour. The deal, which will be signed tomorrow, will see TSK Grupo being employed to do engineering and construction work on the 190 megawatt LNG fired plant. The plant is to be built at a cost of $300 million. The plant is critical to Jamaica's ambition to bring stability to the price of electricity. It follows the conversion of the Bogue power plant in St. James to use LNG as its primary fuel. Victoria Mutual says its account with British-based Barclays Bank is now closed. The closure of the account follows signals last year that Barclays will be discontinuing correspondent banking relations with several Jamaican financial institutions. VMBS, however, reiterates that it has made alternate banking arrangements with Citibank, and has asked its customers to use that channel in the future. Let's look at currency trading now, which ended today with the US dollar selling for $128.26. The Canadian dollar is being sold for $97.53. The pound sterling costs $160.05, while the euro sells for $139.19. The price of oil booked a modest gain today but ended January lower. Oil for delivery in March ended the day up 18 cents at $52.81 a barrel. Prices fell about 1% yesterday and are down 2% for January. Some company news now, and Sagicor has acquired a further stake in 138 Student Living, increasing its holding in the company to 21.88%. It made the acquisition through its Sagicor Pooled Equity Fund. Sagicor, in a release, said the acquisition is purely for income and cash flow purposes, adding that it has no intention of acquiring any more of 138 Student Living. Wasinka has inked a new deal to be the exclusive beverage supplier to Mother's fast food stores for another 5 years. The deal, which was signed last week, extends the 10-year relationship between the two companies.
It's in excess of $1 billion of business that the two companies have enjoyed over the last 2 years. Businesses that entail more than just beverages, but the primary reason we're here today is because of the beverage partnership. It started originally with Coca-Cola, and it has expanded to include water, True Juice, bigger soft drinks, and our many lines of beverages that we manufacture.
Strong gains in the price of NCB led the main JC market index into new record territory for the third straight day, helping the market to advance by 1,763 points to close the day at 211,846, while the junior market index gained more than 8. The winners of the day included 1834 Investments, Berger Paints, Caribbean Cream, Caribbean Producers, Derrimon Trading, Grace Kennedy, Jamaica Producers, the KLE Group, NCB, Pulse Investments, and Sterling Investments. On the losing end were Cable and Wireless, Cargo Handlers, Carreras, Jamaican Teas, Kingston Wharves, Lasco Financial, Paramount Trading, the Scotia Group, and T-Tech. And that's the Business Day. I'm Dwayne Burbick. Good evening.